Good morning. Welcome to the highly anticipated State of the Region event here at Stockton University. My name is Michael Chase, the president of the Greater Atlantic City Chamber of Commerce. We are truly honored to have you all with us today as we delve into critical issues shaping the Greater Atlantic City region's future. I would like to extend our gratitude to Stockton University for graciously hosting this event. Your commitment to fostering education and community engagement aligns seamlessly with our mission at the Greater Atlantic City Chamber. Thank you for providing this exceptional venue for our discussion and to your team for this morning's breakfast. Thank you, Stockton. We have a round of applause for Stockton. I'd also like to recognize and express our sincere appreciation to all of our sponsors who have generously supported this gathering. So thank you to Stockton University, Atlantic Care, Town Square Media, Atlantic City Electric, Verizon Blue Cross Blue Shield, Orsted, Marathon Engineering, and South Jersey Gas. I think it's important for everybody to know that the Chamber, probably 90% of our funding, maybe more, comes from your membership and sponsorships. We do not get public funding. We're 501c6. Things are changing. We do have a foundation arm now, but we're able to do our work, keep the public informed, advocate on your behalf because of your support for our organization and for our generous sponsors, so thank you so much. Furthermore, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the presence of our esteemed board members in the audience today. Your dedication and guidance have been instrumental in shaping the Chamber's vision and initiatives. Your presence here today affirms our shared commitment to the prosperity of a region. If we could just see a show of hands for a number of our board members that are here today. If you have any questions about the organization, you can see how many are here. Thank you so much for coming. Many have served on our board for a number of years and have been committed to our region for a long, long time. Now, our panelists today represent a range of perspectives, and I'm confident that their insights will provide valuable context for the challenges and opportunities we face in our region. We are incredibly fortunate to have the distinguished presence of today's moderator, Matt Fazelpour from NJ Biz. Real quick, Matt and I met during the Visit Atlantic City Air Show. He was interviewing me about the air show, the economic impact, and had a real interest in Atlantic County. The conversation went far beyond, and we were thrilled to have Matt here with us today. So thank you, Matt, for joining us. We also have Senator Vince Polistina. Oh, jumped out of order. Sorry about that. We have Mayor Kim Horton is joining us today. She is the mayor of Absecon. She's the president of the Atlantic County Mayors Association. Kim and I met years ago, just prior to the pandemic, when we were advocating for the 177 Fighter Wing to get the F-35. We had numerous conversations about why basing those fighter jets here, the importance of the 177, the economic impact around the base, and we've continued our relationship. And this is the first time she's participating in one of the panels with us. So welcome, Mayor Horton. We also have, thank you. And everybody knows County Executive Dennis Levinson. I think the county executive is an example of public service, unlike others that we have seen in our area. 24 years of service and running for an additional term now. You know, a lot of the good that you see in Atlantic County, a lot of the positive impacts have been a result of his relentless support for our community, our residents, and our businesses. And I think we all owe County Executive Levinson a huge gratitude for his commitment to our area. So thank you. Senator Polistina, District 2 Senator, his door, his Chief of Staff, Joe Berg, Assemblyman Guardian, Assemblywoman Swift, their doors are always open. And what I truly appreciate as a Chamber of Commerce is we don't always agree on issues, but we always look at the policy. His team consistently focuses on the policy and the betterment of our region. We've discussed clean and safe issues, transportation, on and on with him and certainly his Chief of Staff, Joe Berg. Absolutely tremendous work, and we greatly appreciate your service as well, Senator. Thank you. And Dr. Oliver Cook, Associate Professor of Economics here at Stockton University. We work with Dr. Cook on a number of events. His experience, his expertise is unmatched in our marketplace. We are thrilled to have him here not only as a representative of Stockton University in this home building, but because of his commitment to understanding and learning more and sharing that information about Atlantic County. So thank you, Dr. Cook, for joining us again tonight. So this event really serves as a platform for constructive discussions about the present and future of our region. It's a testament to our collective commitment to the well-being and prosperity of the greater Atlantic City area. So without further ado, let's commence on the conversation from our incredible panel, explore new ideas, work together towards a brighter future for our community. So thank you to all for being here today, and I want to turn the floor over to Matt for what I'm sure will be an insightful experience. So thank you all, and thank you to our panelists again.
Thank you, and really a pleasure to be here. Really, as Mike was referencing, I got to see him this year at the air show, which was the first time I actually got to see it in person, which was really a great experience. I've covered Atlantic City, Atlantic County for quite a while during my journalist career, and really, I'm not trying to just pander to this room here. I really believe, like, as this region goes, and not just Atlantic City, the whole surrounding area, South Jersey, the different tourism, different industries going on here, I believe the state goes. So I think that there's a lot of good ground to cover and a lot of topics to get to. And we have a great panel, as Mike referenced, and hopefully they do more of the talking because they are the experts on this area. So we'll start out, we have a few rounds of questions, and we'll get through as much as we can today. So open it up, and Mayor Horton, I'll start with you on this. How has the economic landscape of Atlantic County evolved over the past decade, and what trends do you see shaping its future?
Well, I've really appreciated the FAA, the Tech Center. I think that we're on the right track. We need to bring more programs and experts and educational opportunities there. I think that's wonderful. Also, the other investment, I think, is higher education. Here at Stockton, ACCC, children are our future, and I think that this is great. That, like the facility we're in right now. Yeah, this is a great venue, and I'm happy that they're expanding. I hope they continue to expand. Even people like me who are retired, when I reach out to my friends, they want to be in a community that have colleges because they know that's an opportunity for them. They know that there'll be programs, there'll be experiences that they still want to participate in. So that's what I see. I hope it continues that way.
Yeah, no, you made a great point. This is my first time at this venue. This is really a tremendous setting. I was thinking, like, for a panel like this too. Sometimes I'll go to these events and the big casinos, and like some of the conversation gets lost in the translation. So this is a great room for this. Senator Palestina, how about you? How has the economic landscape of the county evolved over the past decade?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thanks to the Chamber for putting this on. It's great to be here. Obviously, I had a couple different perspectives here because I was in the Assembly when the issues happened in 2006, and we had the challenges with Pennsylvania gaming open, and we were so dependent on tourism for so long. I was there in 2008, 2011 when we faced many challenges with closure of buildings and impact on our tourism economy. So I think over the last decade since that occurred, obviously you've seen a transition here from not just being focused on tourism, and many of you in the room are part of this. We focused more on improving our educational situation here with higher ed, with ACCC, with Stockton, improving our medical facilities with Atlantic Care, who I know is in the room, and Short Memorial, and then the aviation industry, who is here from Moore, Max, and everybody associated with the Atlantic County Economic Alliance. There are really four pillars I see now in Atlantic County. Tourism, obviously, we can never forget. Education, medical, aviation. Those are really the four things in order to diversify this economy and create more opportunities that I see as the evolution over the last decade and what we're going to look to going forward.
And Dr. Cook, would you kind of echo some of those sentiments, and how else do you see the economic landscape evolving here?
Yeah, it's great to be here with you all. Yeah, I think I echo a lot of that. I actually kind of think about, I've been in this area since 2005 or 6, and have at this point a rather long chance to kind of watch the evolution of the local and regional economy here. And in many ways, it's kind of remarkable, I think, because on one hand, it's almost, you can kind of talk of two different kind of economies in some sense. You have the overall economy, which since 2012 has actually, it's kind of a total employment base has actually declined. But if you strip out the casino industry for the reasons the Senator made clear, the kind of tumult that the industry went through, that number actually turns into like a +5% as opposed to a -5% over the last full decade, which really kind of speaks to the efforts, right, to kind of diversify the local economy away from this historic dependence on the hospitality and gaming industry. And I think, and to those that were maybe kind of here last week at the event, I think there's lots. I think the sense of efforts, local economic development efforts to move in all of these other directions, meds and eds and the aviation hub. I think all of these are certainly going to be part of continuing to diversify the local economy and take it into the next decade.
And Kelly, Levinson, how do you see those efforts playing out so far? Do you see a lot of the same things that the panels are describing?
I do. In fact, the economic future of this county is very bright. For years, for those of you that are natives here, we've talked about, gee, we need more than just casino gaming. We need more than hospitality. We need more than the beach and the boardwalk. And that has always been our emphasis. The unfortunate part about that is that it's not going to last throughout competition. We know New York is going to get game. We know that North Jersey is pressing for it. So how do we compete? We don't necessarily compete that way. We already have the finest restaurants in the world, the finest chefs, the finest entertainment, finest beach, finest boardwalk. We know that. So how do we capitalize? By diversifying. And it was mentioned, aviation. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the future of this county, the future of this area, the future of the state, possibly the future of the country. We have an aviation park, and I wish you all would come out and visit it and see what we have. And it caught on. But I will say this, when we thought about starting this, as the county executive, people said to me, well, you're going to build this thing. Yeah, we're going to build it. Can we get some financing? The answer was generally no. First of all, look where you are. For anyone to come into this county, you have to go off the beaten track. Just like if you go to Charleston or Savannah, it's not along a major interstate. So that has to be your destination. So how are we going to get people to come here? Well, let's take a chance. Let's capitalize on the airport, which is, of course, underutilized, and the FAA, the premier testing facility in the world. And the idea was, let's build an aviation park. Well, when it started, they took $20 million of your money and said, since nobody's going to kick in, we'll do it. Well, who are your tenants? We don't have any. Who are your prospective tenants? We don't have any of them either. But I do believe if we build it, they'll come. And right now, they're not only coming, they're banging on our door. We not only have our first building filled with NASA, Thunderbolt, General Dynamics. These are top corporations in the world. And they're here. If it wasn't for COVID, we'd have 3 buildings up. So now we have a second building that's going up. It is our future. And what we need is state help. What the state of Virginia does for their aviation, what Oklahoma does. We need it here. This is the future for our children. Terrific jobs that are coming in, and it's happening as we speak. So I just want to urge you all, please come out, take a look at what we've done so far, and get on board. And you can say you were there on the ground floor. Thank you.
Absolutely. And one of the things that stood out to me about this panel, when Mike was telling about this panel, was we get it's a great different group of perspectives. You have local, county, state level, academic level, you're seeing a lot of different perspectives on these issues. And one of the things, just in my coverage, especially of this area, in tourism and gaming, things like that, a lot of it is looking at pandemic, pre-pandemic versus during the pandemic, and now as we emerge from the pandemic, Mayor, I'll start with you. How do you feel the numbers and just the feel on the ground here was this summer from a tourism and economy standpoint?
Well, that probably I should probably yield to someone in Atlantic City. I just feel personally, or from an Absecon standpoint, we have our homes are filled. We have people who want to move to Absecon. So I'm going to say that they come and visit and they want to live here, which of course benefits my municipality and the other municipalities, because now our values of our homes have increased, which is important. And we in the municipalities are stepping up. We have new restaurants ourselves. I know there's a lot of growth going on in my city of Absecon, and I know in a lot of the others. So maybe the executive director can talk to how it was this summer. I'm sure he's.
I'll throw that line. Senator Thompson, how do you have this past summer went?
I mean, it was a decent summer. I think we know that it was okay. The numbers, when you look at the numbers overall, were similar to 2019 before the pandemic. So I think from a brick and mortar standpoint, that the industry here in the tourism, in the region was decent. I mean, well, if you tee this one up, Matt, we have some challenges in Atlantic City. I mean, it's not a secret that there are challenges here. We dealt with the Pennsylvania gaming situation Denny just mentioned. We have New York gaming on the horizon. We have a city that needs reinvestment and redevelopment and to clean up some of the blight and to get some of these blocks, productive. Stockton here has been tremendous for the southern end of the city, and we're going to see future development with Lot 21 and hopefully continue the progress that the county and others have started. But we need to really focus from a state level, county level, local level. How do we get the city into a point of to a point where people want to be here, can navigate around, feel safe, see it clean, and so that's going to be a big focus as we go forward.
Let me follow up. That, in this moment, right, is that a lot of what the efforts are, that synchronization between the three levels of trying to get everybody on the same page with the things you're describing?
I believe so, yes. I mean, we obviously have the state has, quote unquote, a takeover of the city that in some cases has worked well from a financial standpoint. In terms of reinvestment, redevelopment hasn't really produced results, and so certainly, if we get through this November, hopefully we're successful. We're going to go back and make sure that we are partnering with state, county, local government to do the things that are necessary here. Jacqueline Suarez, takes over now as the head of the Department of Community Affairs, which is wonderful, I think, for the city because she has a perspective on Atlantic City. She was here as the Director of Local Government Services, and I think we now have another partner in state government that we can really work with to try to promote some of the things that need to be done.
And I agree with you, Senator Palestine, because
Democrat, Republican agreeing.
no, because I've had family that have come and visited, and I'm so proud of this county in Atlantic City. And we have that natural resource. We have that ocean, we have that boardwalk. We need to work on bringing that where it needs to be. People are going to Maryland. They're going to Ocean City, Maryland. I've gone down there. And what it is, it's clean. It's beautiful there. But doggone it, it should be that way here,
Yep. Dr., let me throw it to you. How are you, from your view, the pre-pandemic to now this post-pandemic kind of period?
I think that most of the kind of metrics and stuff that I look at, we have returned, if not, kind of marginally surpassed 2019 pre-pandemic benchmarks. I would say, kind of echoing comments, I think here, I don't know if when the final numbers come in on 23 summer, if they're going to be as robust as they were in 22. I think in 22 you had still some pent-up demand. I still think that there was a lot of stimulus money sloshing around and some pent-up savings that really fired the summer of 2022. Although that said, I was telling Michael beforehand, if you look at just June and July hotel motel tax receipts from the Department of Taxation, those look very, very strong. So I'm eager to, I haven't seen the August data point drop yet, so I'm eager to see kind of at the end when we get it, what it actually looks like. But, I think by all accounts, it was a very good summer. I don't know if it's going to be 22 quite.
Yeah, no, understood. And County Executive Levins, what are your thoughts on how this summer went, and especially coming out of this continued emergence from the pandemic?
I think we've had an extraordinary summer. You look at, everybody, you gotta stop being Atlantic City centric. This is a county of 500 square miles. And Atlantic City's 48 blocks. We can't continue to say Atlantic City, Atlantic City. We know about the beach, we know about the boardwalk, we know about the restaurants, the casino gaming. We need more. And until we realize that Atlantic City is not going to be helped by the state of New Jersey, the state takeover. Well, y'all, take a look since the state takeover. You see any differences? I don't. And if the state could do something about inner cities, they most certainly would do something about the state capital, Trenton. Have you ever been in a state capital in such shabby condition anywhere in this country? So obviously, they can't figure out their own problems, but they decide, we'll come in and take over Atlantic City, and look what we've done. Well, you take a look at what they've done. Drive down Pacific and Atlantic Avenue and see what they've done. They haven't done too much. And by the way, it's not Atlantic City's fault. Irvington, Trenton, Pleasantville, Newark, go to all of your inner cities. This is a nationwide problem that we have. And to center on Atlantic City continually, what are we going to do? What are you going to do? Well, how about safe and clean? Well, it's easier said than done. You take a look at our inner cities at this present time. And that's what Atlantic City is, believe me. And Jim Usher, former mayor, said the same thing. It's a tale of two cities. These billion-dollar edifices and the people outside. And the reason I got into politics is I do believe it was done backwards. Atlantic City had thriving hotels, thriving businesses. And what happened? They insisted that when the casinos came in, that they would build 500 rooms. Great. But instead of standing alone, they have 5 restaurants, they have beauty parlors, barber shops, shoe stores. You don't have to leave that building. So consequently, everything around Atlantic City died. And it died because it was on purpose. We want them to stay here. We don't want them to venture out. Boardwalk became a bit dangerous. Well, don't go on the boardwalk. Stay here. And look at the success you have in the other Atlantic City, Organic Center. This is why? Because it's safe and clean. So like I said, it's easier said than done, but that's not under the purview of Atlantic County. I wish it were, but it isn't. And under the circumstances, we're going to build a county, and we're not going to be Atlantic City centric anymore. Atlantic City, when we talked about, is the world's playground. That's 70,000 people living in, and millions others that came down in the summertime. And they frolicked and they recreated. But you know what? It's not enough anymore. So we better get our heads on straight and realize we better go in a different direction. And that different direction just needs, I guess it needs forethought and it needs courage. Thank you.
Well, and to piggyback into the next topic, what initiatives or policies have been successful in promoting business growth and job creation in Atlantic County? Executive Levinson, do you want to start on that one and switch to order, or do you want me to? You want to piggyback into that? Or,
Would you like to do?
we'll give it to her.
Okay. The initiatives, the restaurant week, the events, the beach, the concerts, those are all good things. Those need to continue. And I know they built that beautiful water park. but my residents have said it's too expensive for them to go to. So what they need to do is adjust that, you know, maybe discounted tickets or some reasons for just locals to use it or other people. So they also need to come up with low interest or loans or grants for people to update their facades of their buildings or to update their actual businesses. But there was the caveat that they had to increase the number of employees they had. And in a lot of cases, I know in my town of Absecas, they're mom and pop stores. They're not going to be bringing a lot of people in, but certainly their businesses need to be updated.
Senator Policy, what issues or policies are you seeing going on in the county to promote business growth, job creation, and things of that nature?
And we talked about the investments into the various industries, and I think those have been the biggest things we see, trying to get state investment, local county investment into some of these industries. And I think that is from the, expansion of Stockton, hopefully expansion of Atlanticare, some medical you'll see, the aviation clearly is critical. The local housing redevelopment law has been a tool that has been used by many municipalities around here to try to spur additional development, spur job creation. So you've seen that used, unfortunately. It has to be used in a lot of cases because a lot of these developers, they need some type of financial assistance to make these projects work down here. So we've seen some of those initiatives and some of those policies that have been successful. They certainly will continue. I just disagree. I agree with the mayor. Disagree with Denny that this wasn't caused by Atlantic City, because it was. And Denny knows, because we talk about countywide tax assessment. What happened to Atlantic City is that they overassessed these properties, and it happened for many years, to the point where when they started filing tax appeals, the economy and the finances of Atlantic City collapsed, and that's why the state had to come in and take over from a financial perspective, the city of Atlantic City. They have millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of budgets here. They have generated billions of dollars of economic growth in Atlantic City, and the city, unfortunately, is in a state where we need additional support. So I know Denny pushed for countywide tax assessment. I think if the county had the tax assessment powers back when all this occurred, we wouldn't be in the situation we are. But I don't think that the city can duck any culpability for what has happened in this city. Clearly, they were the main driver of this. We got to get it turned around, and that's why I say we got to build a partnership, state, county, local, in order to get this turned around.
And Dr. Cook, from your perspective on this.
Yeah, I'm not going to put your weight in here, but just to go back, I think that, again, everything has been said, especially as it relates to events. I think one thing, as I was kind of prepping for this, I went back, most of you are probably familiar with the 2015 Angelou report, right, that was kind of set out. If you go back and you look at the report, it kind of laid the groundwork for a lot of the work that's been done, right, over the last 7 or 8 years here. There's an aviation piece that is identified clearly there, and then there was also a manufacturing piece, which in the report, if you go back, it was like gave it some weird name, specialty manufacturing or something, right? But I think what's interesting, if you kind of think about the history of the casino industry, which Denny's right, and I certainly agree with him. It's westward, I would say, Denny, in many ways. You get, I think that there's a natural tie-in between that aviation piece and that manufacturing piece. And the manufacturing piece becomes so critical, I think, moving forward because of the larger multipliers that it potentially has. Once you start walking down input chains, right, and purchasing chains, this creates the kind of small firm and incubation kind of development that so many people, I think, have longed for so long in Atlantic City as it relates to the question of diversification. How does this happen? You need, somebody mentioned General Dynamics, right? You need large corporate entities that have access to capital. And as you move down those chains, those purchasing chains, I think that's become so critical. And so as I kind of think about future job creation and future growth, walking down those supply chains, manufacturing is something that's represented 1-2% of Atlantic City's economy for decades. if you were to get it to 5, 7, 8 in the next decade, that
Well, this is a great time for that.
Yeah, is it-
Because
I mean-
manufacturing is
Yeah,
like having a moment right now.
Of course,
after-
and so there's enormous potential payoff, and, you know, and I think the folks that do this, that are in the trenches doing this, this will not happen overnight. This is a very long process, right? And so it's very difficult, I think, politically oftentimes, right? Because there are not, ribbon cuttings don't come every 6 months, right? It's a decade, right, of building industries. But if you look around the country to places that have done it, right, this Ventus last week, people talking about those Silicon Plains. That didn't happen overnight. That's been in motion for two decades, right? And now there are just a handful of metropolitan areas that actually can lay claim to having some of that success in that. And so, I think that we're walking the line in this. We walked towards that future.
And Executive Levinson, you spoke of, in your first few answers about aviation, especially. Are there any beyond that? I mean, or even if you want to elaborate more on that, any other initiatives, policies at the county level that are promoting job creation, business growth?
Well, we have the Atlantic County Economic Alliance, which many businesses have taken advantage of. Lauren Moore is here now, and so you pick his brain before you leave and find out what they have. We have a workforce development board where we put people to work, teach them, clean your nails, clean your ears, learn to speak English properly. We'll get you a job. We'll train you. We can't expect people to come in and just be ready to move. This is what we've been doing, training people. We brought kids in this year. We placed 16 children after we trained them into permanent jobs. This is something we want to do. And that's something that the county can do. That's what we can do as a state and the rest of that. But, it's personal initiative also. Talk about what's happening in Atlantic City. It can happen if you decide to put your best foot forward. I'll give an example. It's not just the casinos in Atlantic City. There's many thriving businesses. 2825. This is not an advertisement. Call and get a reservation. They don't answer the phone. That's how successful they are in the inner city itself, right along Atlantic Avenue.
I just went there for my second wedding anniversary. It was a whole, I had to go through 6 steps to get a reservation site.
So what my point is, the ice cream parlors that are flourishing offshore, how can you have lines of 15, 20 people standing outside whatever it is, the cow place? You go, these are things that individuals have decided to do without government help. You want my opinion, and I know it's worth my opinion. Government gets involved in most things. It's a screw. That's the way it has always been. It's the way it's always going to be. This country was founded on personal initiative. It can be done. And it just doesn't have to be Atlantic City. Name another restaurant, Stevie Cookies. Call off a reservation. You get one in November. Why? It's a success. Why is 2825 Stevie Cookies successful? Because they know how to run a business. That's what it comes down to. Why do businesses go out so quickly and go bankrupt? Because they don't know how to run a business. Watch TV and see Bar Rescue. They're failing, all of these restaurant bars. And this guy comes in out of nowhere, suddenly they're a success. And that's what it comes down to. Just not going to hang a shingle out and be successful. And I do believe that if we push personal initiative, give them that leg up, like the Atlantic County Economic Alliance can do, and the Workforce Development Board, we're going to be successful. The good Lord helps those that help themselves. And for us to continue to look at government, help me out, clean my city, make it safe, it's not going to happen unless we decide this is what's going to go, what we're going to do as a people. And Let me just be philosophical for a moment. Before the French Revolution, there were two extraordinary men, brilliant geniuses. One was named Jacques Rousseau, and the other was Voltaire. As brilliant as they were, they had a different idea on how to be successful. And obviously the revolution was coming. And Rousseau said, we have to change the institutions. We have to change them. And if we don't change them, we're going to fail. And Voltaire took them on and said, you're wrong. We have to change the people. If we don't change the people, they're going to erect the same institutions that they have. And that's what it comes down to. We have to have people with initiative, with brains, intelligent, and hard work. Who wants to work? Holy mackerel, everywhere you go, help needed. Help needed, help needed. But then, we get calls every day, can't find a job. Why can't you? I can't answer that question. Oh, I'm not going to work 7 hours a day. That's not going to occur. What do you mean you're not going to work? Oh, you know, you got a 3-day week? Maybe I'll consider it. You can't get people to work. I have some of my institutions here. I can't hire people, and I can't fire them. If I fire them, who's going to take their place? That's the circumstances. And you know you're not going to solve a problem until you define what it is. And that's what I'm trying to do. I don't want to sound like a know-it-all, honestly. I'm running for office. I don't want you to dislike me, but I'm just telling you the way I see things.
Just to piggyback on what Executive Levinson just said, we have a liquor store in Alseikan, it's called White Horse Liquor, and people come there. It's a destination almost to come to that liquor store. Nobody works harder than that family, and they're now moving their liquor store. They now are building another down the road, still on Route 30, but everyone's pleasant, everyone is helpful. So he said, the owner, to me, I want people to come here. I want them, I want to be helpful. I want them to seek me out. So, and they're there 24/7, just exactly what you said. They have worked themselves to the bone almost, because there are a ton of liquor stores, and you can't go anywhere, but it's amazing to see people from all over. I want to come here. So you're right, it does take hard work. And I know in my community of Alseikan, we've had such a difficult time with the ACOA, and we hear their pain because they just can't get people to work. It's just problematic.
No, well, that kind of dovetails into the next topic, and I'm going to try not to think too much about 28, 25. Executive Levinson has my mind on that now. That was one of the most memorable meals I've ever had in my life. But what role do each of you see the local government playing in supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs in the area? Of course, this isn't a topic, Executive Levinson had his viewpoint on it, which we'll come back to on in a second. But also it is a time where, with enormous challenges, right? Everybody in here understands them, from labor, high interest rates, inflation, there's been supply chain, down the line. Mayor Gordon, what are your thoughts on that topic?
Well, a couple of my businesses, they wanted to apply for the NPR, the Neighborhood Preservation Program, but they didn't qualify. They didn't qualify because there's a medium income that they do not meet in my community. So I would like Senator Palestina to go back and maybe raise that so that more municipalities can benefit from that NPR program, because it's very helpful. It's been helpful in other municipalities. Unfortunately, in my municipality, we can't utilize that program.
Okay. And Senator Palestina, you have obviously the statewide perspective on this, but you're great with local issues. You're very involved here. How do you feel about how the local government should help support businesses, entrepreneurs?
We're on that issue, Mayor. I saw Jana Sully just run over to Joe Berger and the staff and mention something. She's got a program to try to help out with this, I know. But I mean, local government's got to do the basic functions of local government. And I mean, that's what local government has to do. It's got to, provide for public safety. It's got to provide for public works, picking up trash. It's got to provide for getting lights on, making communities are clean and lit and safe. And those are the primary functions that local government has got to take on. I mean, just get back to the basics and provide the basic functions that local governments need to do. And then you can build from there. If there's situations where you can help with, planning and zoning or trying to get people through the process quicker. Obviously, those of you who are involved, as I am as engineers, looking at the state, looking at the regulatory environment of the state, there are ways where local governments can try to help projects get through the process. One of the things developers, builders want to see is just certainty and timing. They just don't want to get drug out for an eternity trying to get things approved and permitted so they can get shovels in the ground. So there are things that local government can do along those
In terms of like efficiency and things of that nature.
They don't mind spending money. They'll write the checks. They'll get all the permits. They just need some certainty in the timing. We see duplicity in reviews in this state. We just see it taking forever. And when
My father was a small business owner. I owned a construction company, so he dealt with permit delays all the time.
exactly, and when somebody has that in the back of their mind, they're not as inclined to take the risk because they just don't know what the time frame could be. And so we can do things just to give people certainty and get more capital to play, just by giving them an understanding what the time is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Fu, how about you?
Oh, well, I can't add much here.
You don't want to disagree?
No, I don't.
They don't want to hear everybody agree on things.
To some extent, to the executive's comment earlier, I do think that there is oftentimes a disconnect between accessing resources, folks above the local level, and the small business community. And I think that is something that actually, folks that are in local government, county government, do and should do. And I think, not to say that it's not done well, but I think oftentimes basic, funding, workforce development issues, right? All of those things. It's when you made the comment of, people, you see that for help, for hire jobs, and this is like a classic case of, someone just needing to bring these two parties together. And I think to some extent, to the extent that you have people who need bodies, and people who actually genuinely want to work and want a job, that seems like it's such an easy thing to do, but oftentimes I think it's not as easy as we think.
Yeah, Executive Legend, you can close out this topic. I know you spoke a little bit about it on the last question, but how do you see the role of government in supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs?
I think the Senator Palestina is right on. He's an engineer. He's been there. He understands how it happens. If you see that ad on TV about coming to North Dakota or South Dakota, come here, we're business friendly, etc. Of course, bring your overcoat, but so it's a lot different. It's business friendly. And as Vince will tell you, as an engineer, I have a wonderful project. I got a guy with plenty of money with backing that wants to come in to our area. Well, not local government or county government that's stopping it, it's state government. You have to jump through so many hoops, get so many permits, and the time that it takes is forever. So consequently, it discourages people from coming in. Look at the aviation park, which we'll go back to get these big corporations to come in. What a sales job we had to do with the highest tax state in the country. Why come to New Jersey? That's what the state government has to do. Lower our taxes, make it business friendly, stop having to jump through hoops just to get the permit. You'll have people say, well, I wanted to put this thing together. And, well, where is it? Well, we're still sitting in trying to get through Pinelands. Not that Pinelands isn't a good idea. I think it should be preservation. But holy mackerel, let's use common sense. And if we've been successful here, you stop and look, and I'll say to my staff, what are they doing over there? There are states that are extraordinarily successful. Well, why are they? Well, what's Texas do? What's Florida, North Carolina do? The successful states that people want to go to, that want to live in. It's not just the sunshine. It's easy to get yourself started. And in this state, it is, I'm not going to say next to impossible because people are successful, but until we streamline, as Vince has said, until we streamline the process, he's an engineer. He can do a whole seminar on why it's difficult to do business in New Jersey. And unfortunately, the county is one of 21 entities that makes up the state of New Jersey. We're all in the same boat in this state, and it's unfortunate.
Absolutely. We'll move over to the next topic. What are key infrastructure projects in the pipeline for Atlantic County, and how will they benefit residents and businesses?
Okay, we have an upgrade that's being, right now, it's in the pipeline, and it's a joint project with the county and the city. We're going to be raising the road on Shore Road right before Route 30, which constantly floods. This incorporates Illinois Avenue, Ohio Avenue, and thank you, Executive Levinson. This is a good project and one we are very much looking forward to. Another, we're completing a streetscaping Phase 3 section of New Jersey Avenue in Absecon, which is state funded on a county road that will benefit our private businesses. So there we have a partnership of 3. So again, these are positive things that are happening in my community.
Senator Peltier, what are some projects you're seeing on the ground here?
So obviously we talk about a lot of the investments in a lot of the industries. One of the other key projects that we have worked on, we did get some funding from the state budget this past budget cycle, is to improve the traffic situation for those of you who've been here for a while, the old Shore Mall, Bradley Shopping Center. You know, that the fact that you can't make left-hand turns out of either one of those shopping centers has a negative impact on both of those areas. Obviously, we've seen some decline. You know, half the Shore Mall was demolished. Fortunately, the county stepped in and saved Boscov's. Without their intervention, we might not even have Boscov's at the Shore Mall. But we got to get that traffic situation improved. So what we're going to do is move the signal from where it is currently to the intersection of West Jersey Avenue at the top of the hill, closer to Bennett Chevy. We're then going to also provide a direct access if you're going southbound on the Garden State Parkway. You get off exit 36, you can navigate right into the Shore Mall area, and you'll be able to navigate between both shopping centers, and we'll also connect Bike Path from the Hamilton Township, Edgar Township side over to the Pleasantville side. So there's a number of improvements right kind of in the core of the county that we're looking at as a key infrastructure project. I think it's about $20 million. We started the process of getting state funding to improve that situation because we have to, we got to create a more vibrant area there where you can be outside, navigate between shops, have some eateries, have some, hopefully music or something, sort of like the promenade in Marlton. It's got to be a better situation. So that's one of the key projects that we have also been working on, because that's one of my pet projects, to make sure we get those intersections improved and create a more vibrant destination in the center of the county.
And Dr. Cook, any projects that stood out to you on
Yeah, I think I'll pass it.
Executive Levinson?
Well, Atlantic County is not very unique in this. What I want to say is, when you see many of our roads and these hairpin turns, why would anybody design it this way? Well, we didn't really design it that way. The Indians did with Indian trails, and then with stagecoaches. And they just took that and put macadam over it. And that was your road and how it was designed. In fact, how it wasn't designed. They just took what was and improved upon it. We have 375 miles of county roads, just county roads alone, which doesn't take in municipal or federal or state. Just county roads, 375 miles. We also have 175 bridges. And if you put steel over salt water, you know what's going to happen. They're all in one state or another of disrepair. And it's the way it is. And we have a very short time span to make it suitable. Give you one anecdote. my wife and I are driving on Tilton and Fire Road, and there was construction, and it was in June. And she turned to me and said, "What idiot decided to do this at the beginning of the summer?" And I said, "You're sitting next to him." And she said, I said, "Because the plants for the everything we need, they only open in April. So we have a very short time to get these things done. And we got to get it done before during the spring rains. So you have to bounce around there. And it's a very, very difficult thing to do with planning. And especially when you have all of those responsibilities. Our founding fathers did not give us efficient government. They gave us government that governs close to the people. And that's why you have a federal government, you have a state government, you have a county government. You also have your municipal governments, and inside of them you have all these autonomous authorities. It's very, very difficult to govern in this state. That's where we are, and we got home rule. Everybody's got the best superintendent of schools, the best police chief, the best fire chief, the best everything in that particular town. And unfortunately, it's going to cost you. And it has been costing.
Well, and I think we have time for one more round. So I wanted to get into just the challenges that you all see and some of the, and I know we talked a lot about some of the solutions, some of the efforts going on around, but what are, like, just broadly, like, both, nationally and just in your, your jurisdiction, what are some of the main challenges you see, and, some of the things that make you most excited about, the progress being made?
Well, a big challenge is with my police department. We're seeing a lot of men and women, young men and women, not choosing to be police officers. We need to support our officers. I know the frustration from my chief. I hear it all the time. And my father was a captain in the state police, and my brother was a state trooper. So I'm from a police family. And I don't want to defund the police. I want to empower them. I want them to get the resources they need. And at this point, our numbers are down, and this is a real big concern of ours moving forward.
Anything going on beyond what you mentioned that that you're excited about going on in that weekend?
Well, just the growth. Again, our White Horse Liquor is building.
Yeah.
We're getting a Chipotle in town. I feel we're just excited about the various things that we're holding. We just held our Creek Fest, which is a very successful event in our community. Young people want to move to municipalities where there's things for them to do. It's not just your basic home. They want to know what's going on in your community. So they're looking for opportunities, and so I think I have a wonderful community affairs group that we're constantly coming up with innovative and neat things for our people and residents. So I'm very excited about that.
Senator Peltier, what are some, you have the interesting view of being a state lawmaker, but again, you're very ingrained here. What are some of the main challenges you see kind of broadly, also, as well as localized, and some things you're excited about going on here?
Guys, I echo the mayor's calls on supporting law enforcement, incredibly critical to the future of our society. We have to do it. If society will improve, we got to reverse this discourse where we're not supporting law enforcement. Obviously, inflation, is hurting everyone. Here nationwide, we got to get this inflationary period under control. A lot of policies coming out of DC have caused it. And we also got to support parents. The parental role in children's lives. That is a lot of what you hear trending. Some view that we should limit the role of parents in children's lives. Can't happen. Things cannot get better if we don't improve parents' ability to be notified about their child's lives and be involved. And then, finally, energy policy. I think everybody in this room probably realizes that the notion that we're going to have all electric vehicles by 2035 ridiculous. Can't happen. You know, one of the big infrastructure projects that we'll see if it happens, that we've been talking about here a lot with the offshore wind, we'll see, because the economics are very difficult. But from an energy standpoint, we don't have the power to have all electric vehicles. We don't have the capital to have everyone purchasing electric vehicles. Our roads, our bridges, like Danny talked about, the miles of roads, the number of bridges, the weight limits on some of these things have not been constructed to withstand some of the weight we have with these new vehicles. The fires that are created by these vehicles, you know, we have one of these fires in one of our parking garages over in the city of Atlantic City, and all of a sudden, we're gonna have a whole different conversation on energy policy. And so I think, you know, challenges from that standpoint, we're really gonna have an honest conversation about energy in the state. How do we reduce it? How can we diversify it? How can we have an all-of-the-above approach? Because not one way is going to handle it. In terms of our benefits, I mean, I think we talked about that, but obviously 4 pillars here. We got to make investments into these 4 pillars: education, medical, aviation, tourism. And if we do that, I wholeheartedly agree with Denny. The future of this county is very, very bright.
And Dr. Cook, what are some main challenges you see and some things that are exciting about?
I'll echo some of these comments. I think getting people, especially young people who are being educated to take these, these new emerging jobs and actually wanting them to be here is critically important. And so, last week there was a kind of lengthy discussion regarding, the basic kind of quality of life issues, whether that be, related to housing costs, whether it be concerns over, education. I think all of those kind of basic quality of life and the amenities, portfolio that's available to, 20 and 30-year-olds who are just entering the workforce. To the extent that we want those people to stay long-term and raise families in the region, those become critically important. It's always, there's obviously a debate of, build it and they will come. That's oftentimes not the case, actually. It doesn't work out that way oftentimes. So it's build the right things, right, and they will come.
For children to get the education.
Yes.
And they leave.
Yeah, absolutely.
They decide not to stay.
I mean, I have this kind of unique perspective where I get to advise 20, 30 Stockton graduates every year, and I see, folks that are, I teach the senior capstone program in the economics department, and so I have these conversations. What are you going to do? Where are many of these students, of course, at Stockton are fairly regionalized students, and this is a challenge, right? Because this is the actual job base, especially as it relates to like the professional, job base, has been so limited for so long, and so they naturally, when they go to New York, when they go to DC, and they go to Philly, that has to slow. And again, to go back to my comment, that's not going to happen overnight, right? That's going to be a slow build out. People talk about, like Bader has been in the news, and the aviation park. I mean, these are 8, 9, 10-year build outs, right? These are not going to happen overnight. So that's true, and so it's almost, Danny's comment about New York and upstate New York, and it's almost like a race in some sense, and I know that a lot of people down here feel that way. I feel that way, but I think if we stay the course with these 4 pillars, we continue to make investments, and think big. It's a big county. It's a lot more than a little island, right? That there's opportunity.
Executive Lemison, you can close it out. Some of the main challenges you see and things you're most excited about going on in this region.
Well, I think the greatest challenge that we have is public safety. The worst thing we ever did, that's kind of hyperbole. One of the worst things we've ever done is bail reform. I voted for it. How are we so wrong? Now, you don't want a kid that had a joint, that can't make $200 in bail. You don't want him sitting in jail. Plus, it's going to cost you $86 a day to keep him there, except, yeah, right. Let's have bail reform. Well, we voted for bail reform. And what do? We turned it over to the state of New Jersey. And what have you got? You've gotten criminals that know they're not going to be prosecuted. You have people with bags filling them up with goods and walking out. And then they'll go before a judge who will look at some stupid logarithm and decide what they're going to do. Case in point, an Atlantic City businessman, fast food, had a panhandler outside of his panhandler, politically correct. Can't say hobo or bum anymore. A guy outside asking for spare change. So he goes outside, he tells the guy, move on. Well, guy doesn't move on. Calls the police take him away. He comes back that afternoon and throws a brick through the guy's window. Cost him $1,000 to get it fixed. Now, this is what you end up with. We don't want to incarcerate. We do want to help these people that have, terrible, terrible mental health problems. My county lockup is a justice facility, not a jail. It's a mental institution in many cases. So we have to take a look at the root causes. First thing we do, unfortunately, we can't help everybody. You break the law, you're going to jail. And that's what it comes down to. Right now, if I only steal a certain amount, I'm not going to jail. Will you be that shop owner with people coming in every day and stealing a watch, or stealing this, or stealing that? You can't survive. So I guess the first thing we could do as a group is petition the state government to either reform or throw out bail reform. It's awful. And you arrest these guys, talk to any police officer. They'll tell you, arrested this guy 15 times. It's the same one, all the time. Now, what do the cops do? You can't blame them. I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to keep driving by, act like I didn't see it. So this is what you have right now. And it's an unfortunate circumstance in a free society that those that want to destroy it get more benefits than those of us that have worked hard. So I guess what I'm saying is petition your state representatives. I talked to Senator Palestine about it. He's as frustrated as I am. He's one guy. But we need more than one that's going to decide we're going to reform, bail reform. It's one thing we can do as a people.
And what most excites you about what you're seeing in this area?
Oh, listen, I'm a one-trick pony. I get the aviation. This is our.
Just wanted to confirm.
That's a great representation they have in their elected officials.
Absolutely. And by the way, nobody's been a better partner than Vince in this. And I have had elected officials. It ain't going to work. It's a terrible idea. It can't possibly. And he's still trying to destroy it. The bottom line here is it is working. It's our future, everybody. And it's not Atlantic City centric, it's Atlantic County centric. And we're all going to benefit. And while we're talking about it, we have Dr. Gaba here in the room. She's adjusted her curriculum for aviation. The ACIT, our Institute of Technology, adjusted their curriculum so these kids can get themselves a decent job. We're planning on the future. We're teaching people to fish, not giving them the fish. And that is our future. I hate to, belabor that.
Thank you very much. I think that's all we have.
Yeah, let me skip forward a little bit. We stay on track with it. We had some audience questions. A lot of it was already covered, but I want to thank our panel.